Pastel de Nata.
Yeah, mate.
Who does he play for?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
It's kind of a people's poll with no vote.
Yeah, it's a blag people's
poll with no vote. So there is no vote.
I was putting topics together and I thought, because we were doing the fixtures yesterday, if we don't cover off whatever gets announced, if it's massive on Monday, whatever the announcement is, because it could have been new format or whatever, I just put it out on Twitter on Sunday and said, look, is there any point picking two other topics, or are you just going to vote for this? And it was like 80% were like, don't bother.
Okay.
So that's it. So we're here to discuss day one of the FPL price releases. It's nearly 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, so we're not going to cover any of, if there's anything announced, you're going to get more stuff probably by the time you hear this, but we're just going to focus on day one's announcement. Did you enjoy it, Suj?
I didn't pay any attention to it. We finished recording at about 10 to 1 yesterday, the main pod. So literally the stream was going live at 1. So as I walked down to my office, then a couple of people were chatting to about different work stuff. And it was only 15 minutes later that I was like, I was supposed to switch the stream on. So when I switched it on, it was exactly when they had the Salah price and Haaland price came on.
It was right at the end.
Yeah. So I saw that, and then I caught up with all of the other price reveals that had happened. And then, conveniently, you keep sending me a little Word document that had all the prices.
Oh, my God.
And I didn't know that they were going to then drip feed more prices throughout the day, so I hadn't paid any attention. So, and obviously I was out at this wedding, so I got home about 8:39, and that's when you sent me the final doc. That was the first time I had a look top to bottom at all of the price drops. Yeah,
so obviously in the 1 o'clock stream, they did one player for all 20 clubs. And then we had this slow filter of Luton, Sheffield United, Burnley. So you think that they're doing the promoted clubs and they're going to work in reverse order. So maybe like Everton's next, for example. So they did it, was it last year? They went like, there's normally some sort of logical order with them. They go like 1st, 6th, 11th, 16th. So they jump 5 places. So there's a mix between teams near the bottom and teams near the top. There's normally some sort of formula. So we thought it was just going to go backwards. Then suddenly Liverpool drops. And it was like, okay, right, that's definitely it. And then a couple of hours later, it was Fulham and Nottingham Forest as well, where we got 4 players from all of those teams. And there'll be more of that today. And I think game is probably going to launch either tomorrow, which I think is the more likely scenario, because I think it might just be a surge of shit today, or Thursday. It's going to be. I can't see it going later than Thursday for an actual official game launch. Once every Premier League club's tweeted their 4 players or so, then it'll be out when it. They've also emailed people, I understand, FPL, to say, sign up for emails and we'll give you 4 exclusive players. Listen, someone's going to put that straight on Twitter. I don't need to give you my email. I think you've got it anyway, no?
Yeah,
Not
true.
got it from the website when I log in, etc.
4 exclusive players. So on your email, they'll send you the prices for 4 random players.
I needs one person to get the email and we'll all know, won't we?
Exactly
you know
that.
what it is.
I did look down the list of prices drops yesterday, and I'm not going to lie, considering that quite a few of them for promoted clubs. I said, who?
Yeah, I hear that. We'll come on to some of the who's. I think we should probably start with a big Norwegian, much like we did yesterday in terms of a captaincy discussion.
As expected.
Yeah, that was the one. I have to say that I'm normally quite critical of the pricing because I always think they're under. But I think the big players that you'd have gone in your head, right, there'll be 10 players at the start, like Haaland, Salah, Trent. None of them, in my opinion, are underpriced.
Yeah.
In the sense that we all would have priced Trent 8 million last year. I probably think that's right this year, but it was a surprise to see Trent come in at 8 million. I was like, oh, that's good, because that's a decision to make. Salah's
I
not
thought
dropped off massively.
Trent would come in a bit cheaper. I thought Trent would come in at 7.5.
I did not think Trent would be 8 million.
Yeah.
Really did. So I like that.
Salah at 12.5, I thought is roughly what he would come in at, to be fair. And Haaland's same at 14.
Haaland, I felt, had to be 14, and the closer it got, the more I thought that they probably wouldn't go ahead above that top level price. That's the highest price anyone's been given at the start of the season in FPL. I don't think it's going to deter too many people. What I've seen a lot of already is people talking about 1 premium because now you're spending 14 million rather than say 24 million on two. So is it like a Haaland and now a Son or a Bruno Fernandes? And they're really interesting prices.
They've come in very competitive. I think particularly Bruno Fernandes. I didn't think he had that bad a season to justify going in below 10 million.
What did Bruno get in the COVID season? 240 odd points, and Son must have done similar to that last season, the year before, when he shared the golden boot with Salah.
Yep.
So you know the capability of those two players. And we said last year as well that players like Saka and Rashford, who'd come in at sort of 6.5 for Rashford, Saka was 8 or 8.5 respectively, stepped up to a level where you could use them as your alternative captaincies to Erling Haaland rather than, say, Mo Salah. But I think because of that price of Haaland and perhaps the price of Trent as well, there's a few little waver on Mo. We know his consistency. We discussed yesterday about game week 2, Bournemouth at home. It'll be behind the sofa. Haaland had Bournemouth at home game week 2 last year and only got an assist. But it was those who'd seen him at West Ham day one and didn't start with him were like, oh, there's a problem here.
We've got to have him.
Salah, obviously, ironically as well, the 2 games against Bournemouth last season, didn't return in the 9-0, missed a penalty in the return game. Yeah, they drew a slapping off him. So I'm a little bit conscious of that. But I'm nowhere locked into any players as yet. I've seen people putting drafts together already, which is fine. It's nice to experiment and stuff. But I see someone put a midfield together last night, and it looks like a good midfield. They're all from players who've been announced. I'm thinking, there's so many players. You haven't got a Saka yet. You haven't got a Phil Foden. There's so many you haven't got the prices for yet.
This is the thing. Bruno Fernandes.
We don't even know what Rashford's going to be.
No, exactly. Bruno Fernandes at 8.5 looks good, but then if Rashford
will be more than that. No, Rashford will be more.
If Rashford comes in as a 9.5, it looks more attractive. If he comes in a bit cheaper, it looks less attractive, or the other way around. We had a nice pool of 8 million midfielders last year, and this year, well, from the price drops, maybe 6.5 million's that new kind of little cluster, because there's some good players in there.
I don't know. We think back last year now. Wasn't just Rashford, Gabriel Martinelli as well.
Yeah.
Interestingly, last year you mentioned the 8 million bracket. It was only Jared Bowen was above at 8.5. We already know we've got Odegaard and Fernandes. Bruno. The one I'm keen to see now is, we discussed him a little bit yesterday, is Foden. See where that sits in, because he would have been 8 last year.
He's in the same bracket.
He's not going to be higher, is he?
No.
I think if De Bruyne is, we think, might be out for the start of the season. If Foden has a good pre-season, I think that could be really interesting.
Bomo stayed as a midfielder.
And Bomo really popular, and also Matoma. So they've obviously both come in at 6.5, as has Ebe Eze. I think that probably rules Eze out versus the other two, would be my take. I'm generally quite keen when structuring a team at the start not to have 2 players at the same price. There's obviously mitigating for that, like 2 4.5 defenders if you're doing that sort of thing. But I generally like to have players spread across pricing levels. So it may come down to a choice of one or the other, but we don't know if there's going to be something better at that value. They've both got good starts, right? We've mentioned this. There was a case to say Mitoma for a couple, then Mbumo, then back to Mitoma, so you kind of hop on and off. Brighton's better schedule, but they're both interesting prices. I've seen a bit of contradictory opinion on Mitoma, where some people are like, he's straight in, it's too cheap. And I've seen other people go, not sure that that's better than Mbumo at the same price, because
interesting.
Obviously there's every chance, as we suggested, he was going to be popular. He's likely to become talisman for Brentford, but there should be some caution. We don't know if they're going to do something transfer window that could really change that. If Brentford go and buy a new number 9 to cover for Tony, that might really change the perception of what people think of Mbumo.
Should we cover the goalkeepers quickly? There's only 4 of them. Jose Sarr.
I love the matching up of Jose Sarr with Heung-Min Son in the announcement yesterday, which was, how can we get a Wolves player in there? Which what I said to you yesterday, is going to be no interest. And to be honest, having reflected on it, Sarr at 5 million, I can't even say it's unjustified. He had a very good first season at Wolves, not so good last year. But actually,
their trajectory is downwards, not upwards.
From an FPL perspective, actually, that's probably the right price for him, to be honest. It's almost a shame that he's not 4.5, because I just cannot see where there'd be interest in Wolves otherwise.
Yeah.
And that would have brought them to the table a little bit because of him. because he has been a good, consistent FPL asset. The other 3 keepers are interesting, all in at 4.5. So just cover off Muric at Burnley, Suj, his first choice. But Burnley have agreed a deal overnight for Trafford, the young goalkeeper's playing for England under 21s, who's at Manchester City. 14 million rising to 19 million.
Wow.
He'll be competitive, but it probably means, and I think this was probably going to be the case with Burnley anyway, that we were probably going to look at more like the fullbacks, I think, if we wanted to invest in them defensively. And Connor Roberts at 4.5 is the one we've got so far and will appeal potentially if you want to look at them. The other 2 are really like Leno and Pickford.
Yep.
At 4.5. We spoke at length yesterday of that run for Everton at the start.
It's decent.
If you think you're going to wildcard early, I think that's probably the one. That's almost the one. If I looked at all the players who've got pricing so far, after Haaland, unbelievably, Jordan Pickford's possibly the one I'm most confident I might end up with, actually.
Yeah, agreed.
And Leno was very good last year. A lot of save points. I think he was nearing out sort of like a save point per game, near enough. And you would expect them to concede less than Everton. So it's interesting, we might overlook it, but I think it's the psychological, what we discussed yesterday with Mitrovic, those 3 and 4 fixtures, way to Arsenal, way to City. Do you want to look at your goalkeeper for that?
Well, it depends who you pair them up with, right? So that might be the consideration.
It's a case to say go both there. I think they all rotate okay, even if you went with Muric. I think that's probably avoidable till we know more about that goalkeeper situation there at Burnley. I think Pickford and Leno, though, yeah, that's perfectly reasonable to the extent I'm almost like I'm not really bothered about any other goalkeeping prices. I know there's something there at 4.5.
Let's look at these defenders. I think Trips is coming expensive.
I was surprised.
I think it's coming
this is what I said. Fine, it's expensive, good.
Yeah.
This is what I always say. It's like, it's too cheap. You're making it almost like there's too much choice. I want that battle of choice. But I want this player. I can't have him. As I said yesterday with Newcastle, that first 4 I think is quite off-putting. But a lot of people will still go for Trips. You can be absolutely certain of that. You'll get your
just
average.
On the historic.
You'll get the average Joe will log into the website, won't think about fixtures or the back end of last season, and will just see Kieran Trippier scored a lot more FPL points than other defenders in the game, right?
Yeah.
Was he just shy of 200 points in the end or so?
Yeah, he didn't quite make it to the 200 club.
I mean, listen.
We thought it was a shoo-in at one point.
Yeah, absolutely. On that basis, he's justified to have that sort of price. But I think Newcastle's early fixtures, plus perhaps a rise back to prominence of, say, the Liverpool players, a decrease of pricing that we maybe expect on, say, Chelsea players, there'll be plenty of 4.5 options. You want to pay that 6.5 for Trips and know that he's going to the Etihad in 2 and got Liverpool at home in 3?
Nah, Trips is unlikely to make it to my
come back for it, can't you?
Exactly. I think you're not going to see huge price rises. I'll be interested to see what his ownership number comes out at.
It'd still be decent, honestly, just because he had such a good, successful season. I've seen a lot of people saying as well, I'd like to see ownership hidden at the start of the season, which I think generally would be a great idea. But there's always a few players whose ownership, you're like, I don't understand why the ownership's quite high. And it's more of, I think, the less engaged players will go for that. And that's not to say don't have Kieran Trippier. But I think Trippier's one will still have decent ownership because of last year's performance rather than a Twitter template building towards him. So there's always players like popular English players, always after a major tournament when England have done all right. It's like, get Kane, get all the English players. That always happens. Trippier also falls into that line. What's your take, Suj, on the Robertson-Trent 1.5 gap?
Well, it's big. Bigger than it's been for a while.
I don't think it's been that big before, has it?
Yeah, I was trying to remember when the gap had been that big. It doesn't make me want Robertson anymore. I think if I was going to buy a Liverpool defender, I would just go and get Trent.
I think the answer to that on the Trent and Robertson probably be what do we see in pre-season, and is this new position for Trent going to stick?
I think it will.
And I agree with that.
I think it will. I think I'm more inclined to just pay the money for Trent.
If the position is going to stick, and that means Robertson is tucking into more of a left-sided centre-back position, then I don't think it's actually a contest. I think this is a really clever pricing bracket, actually, where they've split them. Because I think if you'd have had Trent at 7.5 and Robertson at 7, it's not even a debate again, really, is there? Because of Trent's capability. But I think that 1.5 extra would look maybe justified. But what we can't see yet with Trent at 8 million is we can't see Virgil van Dijk's price. Is he suddenly 5.5 or 5 even? Is Ibrahim Konate going to be 5 or cheaper maybe? And suddenly when you factor those things into the thinking, you say, is Trent then worth 3 million more than Konate, for example, if he's going to be a regular? And you can certainly make the case say yes, but he has to have the attacking returns to go with that, right? So
I'm expecting a big season from Trent.
I think certainly if you had to pin me down now, Trent versus Robertson, I'd pay for Trent. Yeah, because I think Robertson is not the same threat for Liverpool in that new system.
No. And then a bunch of 4.5s. We've got our first 4.0 as well.
So Amari Bell, there's jokes are coming this season, kids. Is 4.0, and he did play nearly all of the games for Luton in the Championship last year. There's two big caveats to that. One, as said yesterday, Luton will add to their squad. You couldn't look at a 4.0 Luton defender right now and say he's going to be nailed. You know, people say, is he definitely going to play? Right, guys, calm down. It's a month till the season starts, and they're going to add additions. Also, very importantly, he's playing in the Gold Cup at the moment.
Right.
So there's every chance he'll miss the first couple of game weeks anyway. But it doesn't mean that he won't be a good option, because if there's no other good 4.0s, and we're looking at him in 3 weeks' time and going, well, okay, he might not start game week 1 or 2, but I think he's going to be in and around it, then he's maybe still the one. But I'd throw some caution on that at the moment. A couple of these 4.5s are interesting. So we've had Kene Tete and Tim Ream 4.5 at Fulham. Tete is a player we really like, can be really offensive. I think he's got another gear to go to. He's an interesting one, but same price as Leno. So I think if you wanted to go Fulham, you probably would have the preference with the goalkeeper. Serge Aurier of Forest is in at 4.5. I don't suppose we're getting Nico Williams at 4.0 this year, but then Nico Williams is not going to be a regular starter, I don't think, while Serge Aurier's fit anyway. But the other two we've had, Connor Roberts I already mentioned, is potentially interesting. I don't think it would have been unjustifiable if he'd have come in at 5.
Okay.
It's unknown as yet if Burnley will push through to try and get a deal done for Ian Maatson from Chelsea. I suspect they probably will. But at the moment, as it would stand, Roberts would be the offensive fullback to look at Burnley. And the way they play, it is more about, historically, we think, me and Tarkowski. It's not like that anymore. So it would be a fullback that I think you'd want to look at. And similar is true, although he's not a fullback, he's a centre-back, on Arne Hodzic, who I might learn to pronounce properly. Go on, Suj.
Ahmedozic.
Very good.
I don't even know if that was right.
He was very popular for those who played Gaffer, the Championship fantasy game. Very popular.
Really?
Last year, yeah. Contributed with a number of attacking returns as a centre-back. And Tomo's already all over it, isn't he?
Really?
He's like, yeah, him and Dyer definitely in. Amir Hodzic at 4.5 is good, actually. It's another one. If they were a little bit like we said with Aaron Hickey, it was like, why did you put him in at 5? There could have been something there. I think those two, if they wanted to put them at the top end, could have been at 5, which suggests to me that all the other defenders from the promoted teams will be 4.5, or there might be a couple of 4.0s in there.
There's always a few 4s in there.
Amir Hodzic is one. I think if you're looking to wildcard really early, or if you can find the right rotation, might be quite decent. And the one we highlight for Sheffield United, ironically, that probably does rotate for them, is Burnley. You could go those two players, the Burnley and Sheffield United 4.5s.
Let's cover off the lower end of the midfielders, James, and then we can talk about. Yeah, we kind of covered off down to that 6.5 bracket. I mean, we talked a bit about the Nottingham Forest guys in terms of rotation for their home games and whether or not Gibbs-White or Johnson would be cheap enough to justify maybe rotating with someone.
Did you see
6 million?
See Mark's reaction on Mark Summers, our Forest correspondent, when he found out, because they were doing Black Box live, I think, when the Forest prices dropped. Mark's reaction when he found out Johnson was a midfielder. Ooh! It was right interesting. He does love Brennan Johnson. I think because those 4 away games they've got in the first 6, as discussed yesterday,
it's going to be hard.
Yeah, a little bit, I think. But they're both reasonable prices. If one of them hits the ground running, I mean, Johnson obviously could be on pens. Gibbs-White's capable of taking them as... I think Gibbs-White, I want to say, is taking them when Johnson hasn't been on the pitch, I want to say. I really like Morgan Gibbs-White. I think it's a a potential way for him to go. It's worth noting he's obviously away with England under 21s at the moment. We've got their semi-final tomorrow against Israel, so players like him will be quite late back to training. I'm sure to be available for game week 1, but it's worth mentioning. Jacob Ramsey of Aston Villa is coming back. He's got an ankle injury. He's going to see a specialist.
Oh, man.
Might need surgery, unfortunately. And he's a super talent. Love him, Jacob Ramsey. Of those at the bottom, I didn't understand why Manuel Benson was the Burnley player announced yesterday at 5.5, and he started about a third of games. Okay. His goals return for his minutes on the pitch is not bad, but I think you're paying 5.5 for that with uncertainty on a promoted team. So Zarawi is more interesting at 5.0, and I'm pleased to put Brownhill in at 5.0. A lot of us had him 2 years ago when he was 4.5.
Yeah.
If he'd have been 4.5 again, we'd have all had him again. And he's a much more offensive player now than he was 2 years ago. So to put him in at 5, he's fine. Justin Kluivert has come in at 5.0, who's obviously joined Bournemouth, which is an interesting price. Those fixtures are awful at the start of the season for them, but there's certainly capability and a sort of player there that I think you'd want to put on a watch list. I imagine he will become a starter for them. Sander Berge of Sheffield United would definitely be a pick over Oliver Norwood. Another one who he's probably more offensive than the player you would have seen in the Premier League now.
Okay.
He does get further forward and join in. Clark from Luton, who's 5 million. It's probably a case that they didn't just want to price everyone at 4.5. He scored in the playoff final. I'm pretty sure it was him who scored in the playoff final, but didn't get many last season. So from those at 5.0, probably Zarawi would be the one I'd be most keen to have a look at early on.
Pereira 4.5 to 5.5 is okay.
Yeah, I don't know his fitness status is worth saying as well, because obviously he missed the end of the last season, so he may not even be available game week 1. It was obviously going to get a rise, and I think at least that, when you look at it, in theory, the fact that Gibbs, White and Johnson have jumped to 6 and he's only gone to 5.5, I think when you put it under that microscope, say, oh, actually 5.5 is not terrible. That's a right price. And Danilo, we spoke about him more on a couple of Sky pods we did towards the end of the season. He was chipping in with the odd goal and stuff. And subject to the fitness of other players and the system they play, he can end up playing almost as part of a front three. So that's fairly interesting, but I'm sure there'll be something better than those two at 5.5, to be totally honest. The guys at 6, other than the 2 Forest players you'd mentioned, Paquetá, Suj? It's your boy.
Nah, not a C. I'd rather... Our fixtures are too shit.
I'd rather go for one than Forest boys, even with the
definitely.
even with
that's exactly what I was thinking and just couldn't say. But also keep an eye out for Ben Rama, what he comes in at, because he starts seasons quite well. But yeah, Paquetá.
That is true. Antonio's another one, I guess. He'd be at the Gold Cup and could miss the start, couldn't he?
Possibly.
Danny Ings, short. No, you haven't got the fixtures. McAllister's in at 6 million. He's obviously joined Liverpool. That feels about right. He was one I thought, you might go over the top with him, actually, because of his performance last year. But I don't suppose Mo Salah's losing the penalties at Liverpool, so that's a takeaway already. And until we see it in pre-season, how this is going to work with him and Szoboszlai, and if maybe they might even add a third one as well, that's probably avoidable, I think. It just nicks a Liverpool spot. If Liverpool start doing really well and you start with Salah, Trent and McAllister, you're like, oh, shit, now I can't get Diaz or Gakpo or whatever else you might want instead.
Yeah, I mean, that's a segue into the forwards a little bit, because Liverpool forward, Nunez, coming in at 7.5 was a surprise. I think Ollie Watkins at 8, I expected. I thought that was around... I thought he may even go to 8.5.
Calvert-Lewin and Bamford got the 8 last year, so Watkins was always going to get it as well.
And I think 8's still reasonable for Ollie Watkins.
But he's not with the players underneath it.
No. But yeah, this is surprising. Nunez 7.5, I'm very surprised by. Nkunku, unproven. So it's always difficult when you've got players coming in that haven't played in the Premier League and where to pitch them. Not just his performance and output goals and assists, but will he even play? Because that's the other question mark with Chelsea. So I don't think Nkunku
it's
at 7.5.
That's the same for Nunez, isn't it?
Yeah, but Firmino's on his way out, right? Or has already left. So that centre forward slot is going to be... available for Nunez.
I'm going to say something because other people are going to say it, so you might as well prepare yourself to hear it now, right? But Nkunku coming in at that price is proper like vibes of when Werner came in And it was like, oh, I don't know, is he going to play regularly? What's he going to be? People got so excited about Werner. I want to say it was more, it was like 10 million or something. I think from memory. That's a really interesting price. What I can tell you about Christopher Nkunku, and this probably goes for people who played UCL fantasy as well, I've got experience of owning him in fantasy format, and it's not one that you think, oh no. Like, he's one that when I owned him, and I know he's playing for Leipzig and sometimes he's having easier fixtures, but it was the sort of player you'd look at in your team, you think, I fancy him to return.
Okay.
He's that sort of player. His goals number record's pretty good. Bundesliga tax and all that jazz. We don't know if it's going to equate. And we also at this stage don't know where he's going to play, really. They've obviously got Jackson's coming from Villarreal as well. Does he play ahead of him? Is Nkunku going to play a sort of a false nine? He can also operate. He can basically operate in almost any forward position. I think he's ideally is behind one who can go beyond. But yeah, that's a good price. 7.5. Nunez didn't have enough minutes towards the end of the season. There was the Klopp comments about wanting him to improve his English and stuff. You've got Diaz is back fit. Gakpo, obviously. Jota as well. So there's plenty of competition in those forward areas that would be off-putting enough. Interestingly, our Fulham correspondent, Dara Curran, tweeted about Mitrovic has come in at the same price, 7.5, and his reaction is too much. And I was surprised.
I thought it's
I was surprised that
about
he thought
right.
that.
I don't think it's too much.
I think his take on it was that he actually, it's probably hard to believe, he only got sort of just over 100 points. So probably wasn't justifiable of the big jump. Plus,
but he missed so many games.
Oh, and he also missed so many bloody penalties. He missed 4 penalties, so we don't know if he's staying on them or not at the moment. I think Dara suspects that he may not. But his goals per minute is very decent. I think it's justifiable, actually. I don't see me starting with him because of what we discussed yesterday, where it feels like I'm booking in that transfer. But I can see that where people would go, okay, I think I prefer Nkunku over Mitrovic, but hang on, Mitrovic has got Everton and Brentford. I can skip Nkunku against Liverpool and West Ham away, and then Nkunku comes into Luton when Mitrovic comes into the Arsenal and Manchester City game. So I could see that sort of where people go, oh, yeah, shit, I will start with Mitrovic for 2.
The only thing that will happen is, you know what happened? Nkunku will score a couple in the first game, he'll jump to 7.6, and people will be stuck in this decision where they might have to shoot early to get Nkunku.
Well, a perfect, I think, example
happens
of that,
every time at the start of the season.
Last year was the Rashford versus Martinelli debate that I had quite a bit. And Rashford was 0.5 more. But the intention I'd had in my mind was the idea of going Rashford for the first 2, which was a good move not to do that. Because Brighton at home, Brentford away, and then they were about to walk into Liverpool and some tougher games. Now, ironically, United got battered in the first 2 and then got better from 3. But I decided just to start with Martinelli because I didn't want to book that transfer in. And that feels a little bit like another one of those where we've said if you go for a Mitrovic, no matter what he does in 1 and 2, looking at Arsenal and City, both away in 3 and 4, looks... If you've got the same money there for Nkunku and he's sitting there looking, he's got Luton at home and he started all right. We also don't know what price Jackson's going to be and what his involvement is. So if Nkunku's coming at 7.5, is Jackson coming as a 6.5 or 7 million forward? If he's going to start regularly... I don't know enough about the player to give you an honest opinion at this stage, but it's certainly one to watch out for as well.
Awoniyi's expensive in my opinion.
Too much.
6.5. I think they've kind of judged him on like literally the last 6 weeks of the season rather than looking at the whole season.
I don't even think he's a certain starter either.
It's just a complete avoid. And Dia, don't know enough about.
Ilman and Dye is a very good player.
Yeah, 5.5 you think is a reasonable price?
Yeah, it certainly is. And I think also for Colton Morris of Luton as well. Morris would be worth the extra on Adebayo. I think McBurney wouldn't go near at the same price as Ndiaye. Ilman Ndiaye is a very, very talented player. Many of you may remember seeing him for Senegal briefly in the World Cup. And those who watch the Championship regularly will know he's one of the best players in the division. Very direct, very talented. Basically does play as a forward. We was a little bit in doubt if he'd be priced as a forward or a midfielder. He has got the forward price. But the fact he's got that as a forward and it's 5.5 rather than a 6, yeah, that's a decent facilitator to really keep an eye on. And said sort of 3 of their first 4 is quite decent for Sheffield United. So that and Ndiaye price, he's definitely one to keep an eye on at 5.5. And to be honest, Morris, subject to what they might add additional wise, it'd be the talisman for Luton, and we've said that's a decent run of fixtures for them in sort of the first 6 or 7 or so. So I think both of them are quite reasonable. There always feels like every year is like we had this called Solanke and Mitrovic last year. And if you compare, none of these two hit those levels of goals. I mean, Mitrovic got 40 odds. It was obviously going to be a lot more. But they're coming in at under. These were probably the main two in terms of forward players that we'd have wanted to look at from the Championship clubs. And they're both under 6. So, yeah, on radar.
Okay, interesting. We've got another full day of all of this stuff today. And at some point...
I want your opinion on that Sonny price. At 9.
It's fine. I'm biased by Spurs. Like I really don't know what's going to go on at your club in terms of whether Kane will be there or not, and what system you're going to end up playing and what have you. There's still a lot of good attacking talent there at Spurs. Like adding Maddison to play through balls to Sonny running in behind is only a good thing. I'd like to see Kane stay, and then I'd definitely consider Son.
I think on Kane, it'll probably come to a head in the next 10 to 14 days. He and the other international players due back with training, I think, I want to say next Tuesday. And then we're obviously playing yourselves in Australia the week after. Right. So at some point, probably from sort of the middle to the back end of next week, whatever comes out from there with sort of Bayern Munich is probably either going to be genuine or not genuine.
Have you offered him a new contract?
I presume so.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? I've not heard anything about it.
I'm sure it's on the table.
A contract on the table.
Yeah, I don't think Harry's going to say, yeah, let's talk. And they go, no, don't want to. Okay. So, Tottenham will have a counter offer anyway. It might even be that they're waiting to see what Bayern offer, and Tottenham, wage-wise, go a lot higher. That might even be a tactical ploy that Tottenham have got at the moment. But I think that will come out in the wash in the next couple of weeks. You're quite right. I think what's key with Son, more than... with Odegaard, Fernandes, we can have a reasonable understanding of obviously where they're going to play. Although the Havertz signing might mean Odegaard is a little bit deeper, is my instinct at certain times next season. Because we understand that Arteta wants to use Havertz essentially as a Xhaka replacement. But Son's positioning and where he plays and what we're going to see from Tottenham is more important. He's one who, it's more important what you see in pre-season. Like if Bruno Fernandes doesn't score in pre-season, I'm not that bothered. If Bruno Fernandes scores 10 in pre-season, I'm not that bothered. I still kind of think I know what I'm going to get, roughly.
Sure.
With Son, subject to whams, with Kane and how Tottenham's set up, we can't be too certain of how he's going to play within Tottenham's attacking positional structure. The intention, if Kane stays, I'm sure he'll play left wing, but it's more important where he ends up when Tottenham are then in possession. Will have a big bearing on how good or bad he returns. But certainly, if he can rediscover the form of 2 years ago...
I mean, it's cheap.
He's just shooing at that price, to be totally honest. And he reckons he was injured all of last season.
We shall see. Cool. What do we have tomorrow? Introduction to Sky Fantasy Football.
Yes.
There are so many players that have played FPL, listen to the pod and think, I'll give it a go. Maybe you could be one of them this year. If you're in the United Kingdom...
Or the Republic of Ireland.
Yes.
Suj.
Or
if you've got a dodgy VPN.
The United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland.
Yes, mate. We'll be doing.
Are we sponsored by Nord yet?
No, mate.
Man.
They might have offered. No, it's going to be more of an intro. We also think, based on a tweet that was sent yesterday, that Sky Fantasy Game will open up Friday as well. So it'll be a nice one where we'll do the intro primarily for new players tomorrow. And then we'll have a look at the pricing for Sky Fantasy next Wednesday as well. Clayton's going to join me for the transfer show on Thursday. And there's an opportunity to jump on stream and ask me questions Friday in my Ask James stream as well.
Lovely jubbly. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast, or hit a like or leave us a review. And we'll see you tomorrow. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man. Shout.